Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Pagan's Witchy Corner. My name is Pagan, and I am joined by the wonderful Lara Vesta, who wrote the book Wild Soul Runes Reawakening the Ancestral Feminine. So, Lara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I've read your book twice now because the first time I read it, I always like to read a book like this cover to cover just to make sure that I've kind of grasped the initial concepts. And now I'm actually working through the class part of it. But before we dive deep into that, go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about you and all that and what really brought you to write this book.
Oh boy. Um, the book is a journey for sure. I, let's see about me. I am a former academic. I guess I could start there. Actually, I should probably start. I grew up in the deep woods of Weimar, Oregon, like way out in the middle of nowhere. My parents were hippies, and my dad had a hat that said, "Where the hell is Weimar, Oregon?" And we lived outside of that. So my experience growing up was always being super connected with the earth. We had no running water or electricity for a time. We had no neighbors that were visible to us. The nights were very dark. I had a horse. It was really quite wonderful. And so that is actually the seed for all of the work that I do in this life.
Mhm.
My journey from there took me through many, many things. I'm a mother. I was an academic before I became very sick for about a decade. I still deal with chronic health issues, the latest being COVID related.
Oh, no.
Yes. And in the mix of all of this has been this ever evolving spiritual path that I call ancestral animism, which is really just a lived spirituality engaging with specifically the pre Christian life ways of my ancestors and then trying to develop application through lived experience in my everyday life, and the runes have become an integral part of this. So my journey with them started in childhood. My grandfather's from Norway, and I always saw them kind of dancing at the periphery. And then when I think it was about 2012 or 2013, I actually started to encounter them more in a present way. I started taking classes. But what I realized was that the information we have about the runes is very static
Mhm.
and non-specific. And there's a lot out there. There's a lot of archaeology, but truly we don't know where they come from. So we have to turn to myth for that. And then I started doing gnosis work, and that is the root of this book. The book is rooting into the materials that we have about the runes. So we have some poems, we have myths and stories, but then coming into a personal practice and inquiry based practice with these, I see them as beings because I'm an animist. They are alive, they're pieces of the living web of weird. So the book actually started as a practice with others. We spent
Mhm.
33 weeks. That's why it is a practice. And then became a synergy of some ancestral connection work that I've done. And really, it's just about sharing my path, which is continuing, evolving, ever developing, and hoping that other people will walk their own path with the runes, which so many are. And it is increasing my knowing so much to walk the path with others because this is a living faith, this is a living practice,
Mhm.
and it lives through us, not um, in spite of us or because of us.
That is a beautiful thing. And I absolutely love that about your book. I love the fact that it wasn't just a book that's concrete, here's the meanings of the runes, do what you will with it. It's more of a book where it's like, yes, here are some of the meanings, but go explore them and learn them for yourself and get to know them as if they were beings. And prior to your book, I actually didn't see the runes as living entities. I saw them more as just kind of like tarot cards, where they were a tool, they were not anything else. But I'm of kind of a mixed bag even when it comes with my tarot cards, where I'm like, yes, it is a tool, but at the same time, each one has its own spirit. Each deck has its
Mhm.
own personality. And that's why some decks will work great for some things, and other decks, you can't use that for the same questioning. So, the wonderful thing about your course as I'm working through it that I'm finding is that it really is such a beautiful way to immerse yourself in not only a form of divination, but a form of a spiritual practice that isn't is a part of other practices, but it in itself it can be its own practice all on its own.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And this is just my practice, right? So
Yes.
this is my own and I'm sharing it and then you take it and it becomes your practice because of course you're doing unique things with it. And that's what I love so much about having a lived spirituality and being able to exchange this kind of information. Gnosis work really just blew me open because, like so many folks in this culture, I had been exposed primarily to authoritarian spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
saying that there is, kind of a hierarchy of truth and even some of the alternative spiritualities get pretty dogmatic.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes. It is very true. And there's a lot of things that I on my show, if those who are listening know this, the one thing that I always tell everybody on my show, you can take whatever practice that you're doing and make it your own. Your way is the right way.
Mhm.
Because if you do it somebody else's way, yeah, it might work, but it may not work as well as if it was your way. And figuring that
Yes.
out is the best path. So that's pretty much all what this book in a nutshell is about. So if you want to get in its version, this is about taking the runes and go find your own path with them. There's the byline, everyone. Go buy a copy.
Yes. Oh, I love that nutshell. That's perfect. Thank you.
You're
I've been
welcome.
working on a summary forever.
But it is beautifully set up. It's one of those things that I would really like to do the class with my community as well to kind of see what they get out of it, because the spiritual practice is not just about, doing it yourself. Yeah, you can do it yourself, but connecting with others is so much more important as well.
Yes.
So, yeah, I love that you did this. This is such a beautiful thing. What really Now obviously you were inspired through the living animism of these runes, but what made you decide to basically create a course and teach the course about it?
Well, I had a lot of requests. People are drawn to the runes. They see them, and I think many of us recognize something in them. They contain, they are such a rich and ancient symbolic language. And I think that there's this intrigue. So I had a lot of requests and then I always teach what I most need to practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's like how I set up all of my classes. It's
That
like, okay,
seems to
this
be
is
how it
what I need
works for
to
me
do.
as well.
Yes.
If I'm teaching somebody else, then I can hold myself accountable.
That's right. Exactly. And you naturally then bring in the community that you're seeking to do the work together. So that I was in a time of huge transition and I just really wanted to have a devotional practice with the runes and go slowly. I have neurological issues from my chronic illness,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time I was really debilitated and wanted to spend, a week with each rune intimately. A lot of the other classes I'd taken had kind of bunched the runes together and we were working with a whole bunch at a time. And I thought, well, if I'm operating off of the presumption that these are beings, then wouldn't it make sense to give each one an opportunity to speak?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I had a little collective of folks that were also interested, and we started. It was a bit nonlinear because I was so disabled at the
Mm-hmm.
time. So we kind of it actually started without a live component. And then about 12 weeks in, we decided that we needed to meet live and discuss. And so that was the seed story. A lot of the inquiry questions in the book come out of that. I just would write my inquiry for the week with the rune.
Hmm.
And really, by the end, the runes were writing me. They were telling me what the questions needed to be, and they were giving me the information that needed to come forward. So, but that's the hope, actually, is that people will take the book and then, yes, please use it in your communities.
Hmm.
It's that seed, and then you'll develop your own way around it. But that was, I wanted to create a tool because I didn't have a tool.
Hmm.
You know, I had a lot of books that were telling me what to think about the runes, and I'm just kind of contrary. I don't really like being told what to do. So I
I
I
love that.
wanted I wanted something that would um, invite in a different way. And we're actually at the tail end of running the practice again right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the community has really had to take it on. I had COVID again for a second time
Oh,
in
no.
oh, it's been really rough. I had COVID again in January, so I've been pretty my health's been all over the place. So the
Hmm.
community actually has been taking on these weekly gnosis groups, and it's perfect because it is not a class. It's actually a community that is supporting each other in this journey. So
That is incredible. And I'm so sorry that you've had COVID twice. Even having it once is terrible, but gosh, having it twice. I'm so sorry that you've had to endure that. Um, that's just kind of this will be that weekly reminder that I tell you guys every week to stay safe. Anybody can get it, and just be careful and take care of yourselves. Please, please, please.
yes.
I always remind my audience to do that because I want everybody to stay safe. I don't want anybody to end up as a statistic.
No, absolutely not.
So kind of going back to your group, and all of that, when you're doing these kind of groups, do you find, now that you're running through it a second time, do you find it to be a different, almost like a different course? Like, does it hit you differently than it did the first time?
Oh, totally. Yes, absolutely. Because the number of dimensions that you travel through with the runes are just infinite.
Hmm.
So, and the way that they meet you at the intersection of like this particular moment in your life, this particular moment in history, it's completely new every single time. And it's just like living with a person too. My relationship with my partner is very different now than it
Hmm.
was 10 years ago. Like I really know them a lot better. And
Yes.
so there's that. But then working with new folks coming in, you get all of these new insights, and people start dreaming together, and the symbolism awakens, and the synchronicities come through. And it's just new. It's absolutely new every time, and affirms once again that there is no limit to the possibility of our practice when we're
Hmm.
in dedication and we're in community, and in devotion to life, which I think that's what the runes represent. They are this web of life that we all occupy. It's just magic.
I think it absolutely is magic. And as you're talking about that, I'm, looking at the cover of the book, and I see the Norns sitting there weaving the webs of life and all that sitting there. So I'm like, oh, that's synchronistic. Okay. I love it. So,
Yeah.
my next question for you is, obviously your book is written about reconnecting with the astral divine feminine. Now, because we live in such a, I want to say almost a toxic culture when it comes to the gender lines, what would be your sales pitch to somebody who is not feminine but wants to still read your book?
Mm. Well, the feminine is in everything and in all, just like the masculine is in everything and in all, and the non-binary is in everything and in
Mm-hmm.
all. It all is all. So feminine being a quality, and that quality takes on many different meanings for folks depending on where they live in history and, of course, identity. But I think that there's pieces that we're missing in the story because we've had such a, if we just take traditional views of the elemental feminine and the elemental masculine,
Hmm.
we're missing big pieces of a story that has been told through a dominantly masculine lens. And I learned this a lot in doing the translation work
Hmm.
because most of the translations are done from a masculine lens by people who identify as male, and there's subtleties in there that are absent. So I
Yes.
think that anyone can benefit from reconnecting with the feminine, and truly, we all come from a source that has been traditionally identified with the feminine, which is generative,
Hmm.
regenerative and generative, and connecting in with our first home, which is the womb, and our first mother, which is the earth, brings us into a relationship with the past that can help us to realign with the future, whatever identity we occupy or whatever we wish going forward. We need to reweave the web. This story has been hidden from us in a lot of ways.
Wow, that is gorgeous. That is so gorgeous.
Thanks.
Oh man, I love that so much. And I truly agree with everything that you said because I do believe that so many of the world's problems right now, I think, have stemmed because we have ignored the feminine voice for so long. And we're still trying to squash the feminine voice, especially here in the United States, which is incredibly depressing. But we're not going to get down that road because nobody wants to be depressed. But I think that if we took the time truly to really connect with the feminine energies, not just in ourselves, but around us, I think we really could help the world in so many ways. So many ways.
Yes, absolutely. It's a healing. And we need the all. And we need to acknowledge that there is no wholeness without the all.
Mm-hmm.
And to go into and see, like, if we're working with the web of weird, which I do in meditation all of the time, there's so many knots and tears in the weird from all of the things that have gone on throughout history. And when we come into relationship with the feminine in our communities or in essence or in the world around us, and we see the need for balance and the wholeness, we can start to repair.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, going forward, whatever vision we carry, that repair is still necessary. We can't exist without the healing.
Yes. Absolutely yes. And I'm kind of glad that you pointed out that all the webs and the snags and the tears in the web. And when I do my meditation practices that involve that, the one thing I've kind of tried to do because I'm a Reiki master is to try to give some of that healing energy back to untangle some of those things
Mm,
because there's so much out there that we could do that's not just, and a lot of times when we think about fixing the world, it's like, fight the man. No, you don't always have to do that. Sometimes it's just giving that healing energy to your ancestors, to your history, to the web itself. So that way it can form the pathway it can to the non toxic version of itself.
yes, yes, absolutely. And there, you know, I understand the urge to fight. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, just in observing again through an ancestral animist lens, looking at the regenerative qualities of the earth. I'm looking out at my garden right now. We just had like 5 inches of snow a couple days
Oh.
ago, and it was spring, and then everything got smushed by the snow and all these branches broke. But I'm looking out there right now and everything has completely sprung back. And um, there is a way um, to accept what has happened and to use it constructively in moving forward, and that giving back of energy, that giving loving energy back into the past, especially in mythic time. There
Hmm.
is no past and there is no future, so we can give it all right now in the moment, forward and back through everything, and allow ourselves to exist in that place of union.
Hmm.
And I've, in working with my ancestors, they so welcome that,
Yes.
because the fighting has exhausted us. We are
Hmm.
exhausted. And I think, coming into the present moment, these last couple of years have really, have really worn us out. So the more
Yeah.
loving energy we can offer.
There are days that I swear my ancestors just look at me and like, girl, I am tired. I am tired.
Yes.
Can you not today, please? I am tired. I can't. You either break your neck or don't do this. Just don't. That, like,
Yes.
literally my ancestors some days are just looking at me like, I cannot chase you in the crazy today. Please don't. Just sit.
Yes.
Don't move. Which is such a wonderful experience. And I think that there's also, I also work with Loki, so there's such a fun, chaotic experience when your ancestors are like, please stop. You're
Yes.
driving me nuts. And all you can do is just sit there and go, oh, well, I'm the child in this moment, and I'm sorry. I will go sit in the corner
Yes,
and calm down.
exactly.
It's such a wonderful experience. And, you know, the cool thing about your book that I'm also finding is there's so many different things that when I worked with runes in the past, and I've worked with runes, gosh, what is it, like 6 years now? 6, 7 years? Numbers, they escape me. But you know, working with the runes, it was all very static, like I was saying before. But now, with each one, there's a different translation. There's a different look. There's a different. It's like seeing the whole personality
Mhm.
of each of the runes, and then it's like kind of having an entity come in and be like, "Let's sit down and have a cup of tea, and you tell me everything about your life." And it's really fun, and you get to sit there and almost interview them with the questions that you've presented in the book. So again, here's my sales pitch to my audience, guys. Go buy a copy of this book, especially if you're interested in the runes, or if you're just interested in looking at a different divination system in a different way. Because I think you could probably take some of this and also apply it to tarot, or apply it to working with um different types of divination, and you know, like Lenormand, or working with shells, or working with any sort of divination system that you feel comfortable with. But I think this is a really great way for you guys to break your feet into the runes if you're interested.
Hmm. I love that so much.
So that's pretty much most of my questions for you. So where can people find you? How can they get in contact with you? I know that when we've interviewed you, you had some, there was some information about a class or something that people could get in contact with you about, or something you were working on. Tell everybody what they can do to find you and get in contact with you and take your classes, etc., etc.
Sure. Well, I have a lot of classes at the Wild Soul School, and many of them have no financial barriers to access. I operate by community sponsorship. So, my Patreon community, or folks who pay as they can, they really support this kind of access for these classes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am running a project this year called the Dark Goddess Project, which is all about integrating difficult transitions, rites of passage, and really deepening through practice and community into the rhythm of the year, the cycle of the seasons. So that is facilitated over at Patreon. And I have a couple of different ways that folks can participate in that. One is called the Year of Ceremony, where I'm offering folklore and ceremonial guidance at the turning times of each point of the year. I also offer ritual talks each moon about pretty much whatever folks are interested in. People can, I always really am engaged with my Patreon community because they support me so
Mm-hmm.
much. So, and then the Dark Goddess Project is nonlinear. So, folks who want to participate online are welcome to join at any time. If you have a difficult transition that you are navigating or have navigated in the past and haven't integrated, you are welcome to join us as we walk this path together in community. So
That
those are the two primary places.
that is absolutely wonderful, and your Dark Goddess class sounds incredible. I think I might have to sign up myself. um, but I've worked with many of the Dark Goddesses in the past, and I think one of my favorite books out there, you may be familiar with it, is Dark Goddess Craft by Stephanie Woodfield.
Ooh, I don't know that one.
It's a beautiful book. I highly recommend it. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous book, and it kind of breaks down different rituals based off of a lot of the dark goddesses and how they can individually help you. So, if you haven't checked it out, you should. Great, great, great
Oh,
book.
wonderful.
But yes, your class sounds incredible, and I love the way that you connect with your community, and especially in times where it's really trying and difficult financially for a lot of people to get involved in spiritual classes. And I think that that's an incredible way. So, everyone, you've heard it here first. Go sign up for all of Lara's classes, go buy her book, go do it all. Go do the things. You know what to do. And all the links will be in the show description as always. So, and you're not on social media, are you? I didn't think
I
so.
am not.
I
No,
did not think so.
I left in December. So yeah,
How's
I
that
was.
transition been?
Oh, absolutely wonderful.
There are some days I feel like I should just delete my accounts, and then there's other days where I'm like, no, I would not know how to survive without social media. But then there's the same days where I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be here. It's pretty icky.
Oh, I know. I did a ton of research last year. It's actually an open Patreon post if anybody is interested. I did a ton of research because I was essentially trying to see if I could convince myself to stay on social media. I had a really great community,
Hmm.
and so many people found me through it was Instagram. But I did a lot of research after reading a academic article called Stewardship of Global Collective Behavior, where ecologists, people from all of these different disciplines were essentially coming together and saying that social media needs to be studied as a crisis discipline because of what it's doing to humanity, that is changing the way that we interact as humans so quickly in an unprecedented way and escalating conflict around the world. And there's alarm in a lot of the like sociology, ecology, like all these academic disciplines. And I read that and I thought, okay, that sounds disturbing. Like,
Right?
and then, yeah, that's so I did tons of research on impacts on mental health and the addictive nature of social media as, you know, a tool for exploitation in spiritual circles. And I put it all together into a document that's downloadable. So if anybody's interested, they can go and look at what I was looking at. And then I took a break for a month. And I came back to it because I got two new diagnoses. And I just, the medical community has like no support.
Right.
And that was the one area where I found that there was some benefit to social media was actually for people with chronic health issues and disabilities, because we tend to be so isolated,
Hmm.
that that's a place where we can find community. But then the Facebook papers came out, and all the studies about teen girls and Instagram. And my guides were like, you just have to stop. You have to trust us that this is not the way. And so I deleted my account in November, and it was permanent in December. And I have so much time now. I mean, I miss some things about it, but I do have a lot of time.
Hmm.
And it's forced me, like I created a mighty network for my community. So there is a place for people to engage if they want to on a social platform that's not algorithmically driven, that is non-commercial.
Hmm.
And that's been really great as an alternative. It doesn't give the same feed. Like I definitely don't have as many people finding me, but it seems to be weirdly okay. It's been such a wild journey. I don't really know. I don't really know the full impact because I'm not on social
Mhm.
media, so I can't see it. But I'm grateful now to be away from it, just in terms of especially being chronically ill, I was spending way too much time, developing content, and I had over 800 single space pages that I pulled off of Instagram.
Wow.
So, yes.
That's a lot. And it's interesting that you talk about Instagram because for those who listen to my show, you guys know I have an Instagram account. It's on my link tree. I never post because I get on Instagram and I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. And it's like I find myself mentally drained just creating the post and finding the hashtags and doing the marketing and doing all the stuff that you're supposed to do for the Instagram stuff. And it's like, this is too much effort. So I'm just not going to do it. And I will post
Yes.
something like every 6 months, just to tell you guys, hey, I'm alive. I'm not dead. But, it does kind of really, especially once Instagram kind of was taken over by Facebook. And I have been off Facebook I still have my account. But that's it. Like I never get on it. I never do anything with it. And once it was taken over by Facebook, I was extremely disheartened by it being taken over by Facebook because I knew Facebook was extremely toxic and really terrible, and there was
Yes.
so much misinformation that was being spread there. And I'm like, well, now it's just going to spread directly to Instagram. This
Yes.
isn't going to be good. And it did. It did exactly what I thought it was going to do. And it still, and I can't even look at my Instagram feed anymore, which is sad because I do have a lot of creators that I enjoy following, or I did. But now I don't even see their content anymore because it's just filled with a bunch of ads and other crap that I don't need. So it does kind of make me really sad. And, Twitter is halfway between good and halfway between evil. There's no real happy medium with Twitter because half my feed is like, oh, hey, friends, fantastic. You guys are doing great things. And then the other half is, I really don't want to see this. This is really icky. Yuck.
Yes.
Okay. So, and my happy place is TikTok, but that's because I am on it enough that I can curb my own algorithm to show me happy things like puppies and gardening. That's about
Oh,
all
those
I
are my
see.
favorites. Yes. I will say that that's a real place where I've lost that I don't get as many baby animal videos in my life anymore. That's
Yeah.
like a true loss for me.
There's a lot. I get a lot of pit bull content because I rescue pit bulls. And
Oh,
so I do that. And then there's all of the gardening and homesteading stuff, which I love because I'm a gardener and a homesteader. So it's that makes me happy. And then every now and then I'll get a video where I'm just like, I don't want to see this. And so I don't watch it. I just scroll right past it. And then the algorithm's like, oh, you don't like this content. No. Okay. Let's give you content you actually will watch. So TikTok's my happy place, but that's pretty much as far as I go with social media. But it's terrible pretty much any direction you look. But I like that you created a mighty network, especially because that's for chronically ill folk, right? If I remember correctly.
that is, you're thinking of the Mighty, which is
Oh,
for
right.
chronically ill folk. Yeah, Mighty Network is just it's like a private social network. Some people offer like paid memberships to their mine's free for anyone who takes classes or wants to join. They can just actually, I've admitted everybody, I don't ever check because
Okay.
so far it's worked out. So if you want to join, come on in. But I have a really active community, especially with the Dark Goddess Project and the
Hmm.
Wild Soul Runes Gnosis group. So they want to keep sharing, even though I'm not able to be there so much because I've just been too sick.
Hmm.
But they're able to keep sharing, and you can share photos and videos and links, and it's been quite lovely. And I like that it's private, that it's
Hmm.
non-commercial, and it has that same feel. I mean, we all hope that someday we'll be able to gather again safely and in community. It's almost summer here, so maybe in person. But now I have all these people from the world over
Hmm.
who I love, and I love to know how they're doing. And it's just a really easy way to check in with everybody to make a quick post. Um, So yeah, I do recommend Mighty Network. It has some bugs. It's not like slick,
I
but
mean, all social media has its issues.
that's
So,
right. No, that's very true. That's very true. But
so
it's friendly.
that's
That's what I like about
awesome.
it.
That is so awesome. My last question for you is, do you have any more books that you're currently working on?
I do.
Can you
I'm
talk about them? If you can't and they're still hush hush, that's okay. We'll just have you
oh,
back on the show to talk about them later.
they're never hush hush. I've been working on I'm also the author of the Moon Divas Guidebook, which is a handwritten book. I wrote it a long time ago and just republished it this last year. I have a new edition that just came out. And so I'm working on a companion book. The Moon Divas Guidebook is spirited self-care for folks in transition. It's actually the subtitle is for women in transition, but it's for everybody.
Mhm.
Um, but the Dark Goddess book is a companion book I started when I was in the midst of my own, I call it a death transition. I came very close to dying in 2018. I was really, really ill. And that was an initiation for me. It was a spiritual initiation. So I decided I wanted to create a handbook for those kinds of really difficult initiations. And I've been working on it ever since. So that is in progress. Because it's handwritten and illustrated, it
Mhm.
takes a long time. And I have a lot of inflammation from my long COVID stuff. So that's slow. And then I have a book that was tentatively titled the Myth Path book, which is really about ancestral animism and
Mhm.
living in rhythm with ancestral life ways, kind of, again, inquiry based, how I engage with these things so that folks can find their own rhythm with their curiosity and link to place, to the land where we live, which is so important. So that's also in the works.
Those sound incredible. Absolutely
Thank
incredible.
you.
And the Moon Divas guidebook, and I'm looking at your bio on the back of the book. You have the Moon Divas Oracle as well, right?
Yes. Yep.
Are those like mass produced where people could buy them, like if they wanted to go to Amazon, or do they need to go directly to your website to get them?
So the guidebook is on Amazon, the Moon Divas guidebook, and the most recent edition, there's two editions, and it's for some reason the old one gets really inflated. The price gets really inflated sometimes because it's out of print.
Mm-hmm.
So go to the latest edition because that one will be consistently priced. And then the Oracle is available. You do have to go to my website, but
Okay.
it's just through Lulu, and there's cards too, if folks are interested
Oh
in the
yeah.
oracle cards.
If you guys like to collect those Oracle decks and those cards and all that good stuff, head over there and do that. Well, Laura, this has been an absolute treasure of a conversation to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me today. And this has been so wonderful. And I can't wait for your new books. You'll have to keep us posted when they come out because I'd love to have you back by when they're out.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you so much, Pagan. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here and visit with you.
Oh, this is wonderful. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And go and support Lara and all of her wonderful works. And if you are interested in anything that we talked about today, all of the good stuff is going to be in the show description. So you'll be able to find links to books, you'll be able to find links to Lara, and everything in between. So take care of yourselves, be good, and we will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye bye, everyone.